Hey, Chris. Pat Gallen from CBS in Philly. What's your relationship like with Jay Wright, and do you have any favorite moments that stand out to you, over the years, on or off the court with Jay?
I just really, really, really like the guy and have tremendous respect for him. And I think I'm among so many people that have great respect for him and really like him. He was really in our league in the Big East right now, or when I was in the league, and I'm sure it's the same. He's kind of the statesman of the league, and everything kind of goes as he leads. But he's also got a great humility in how he is as a person and as a coach. When we beat them when they were number one in the country, when I was at Butler, he took a moment. I think he just said, "Hey, I'm really happy for you." And then when we played in the NCAA tournament, and it might have been our game to go to the Sweet 16, he sent me a really long, nice text. Just basically said, "Hey, be Chris." So it was, those are some moments stick out. He didn't have to do that. We've been a little bit not as much in touch since I left the league, but just tremendous respect. And I've stolen so much from him and his program. He has no idea, because I didn't tell him. I just didn't tell him. I just watched his practices, watched his teams. Anything that he was doing in terms of teaching, I would watch. Even to this day, I have stolen a lot from him. So thanks, Jay.
Matthew Ryan, right here with City of Basketball Love. Obviously, you're very familiar with Villanova playing in the Big East. You guys played them twice a year. What, from your time playing against Villanova in the Big East, have you learned about how they play, and that kind of resonates with this version of the Villanova basketball team? Yeah,
it's very similar. They have a tremendous buy-in to how they want to play. They've got a real toughness to them, always. They just have a real tremendous toughness and approach that is just really tough-minded as well. They're physically tough, and they're really, really tough-minded. Some of that's because they're older. They're typically older, but even some of his younger teams have been really tough and tough-minded. It requires a great discipline to play a team that is this talented, this good, this well-coached, and as tough as they are.
Griffin Strom from 11 Warriors. And Coach, you were just talking about, patterning certain things off of Jay Wright's program at Villanova. And I'm just wondering, in terms of maybe roster build and how you assemble a team, is that something else you've kind of borrowed from Jay Wright's philosophies over the years, and in what way?
I think the idea that Jay talked openly several years ago, really after his Final Four run, about a little bit of a change in his recruiting approach. And if you go back and if you look at it, and those that followed the program know what I'm talking about there, and certainly that's informs kind of some of our decisions and how we went about recruiting. I'm aware of kind of how he builds his roster, and he plays a smaller rotation. I think there's some appeal to that. I haven't been able to kind of adopt that maybe as much as I thought I might initially, but there's certainly some things there that I've thought about and kind of studied with the way he builds his roster.
Johnny McGonigal with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris, you guys last faced Villanova back in November of 2019. One, do you go back and watch that film? And then two, Jermaine Samuels and Colin Gillespie started that game. How different are they now than they were back then?
So different. Yeah, they're so different. They're older, for one. They were young. That group was pretty young. And it was early in the season. So, really the more they're so different than that team. I think that the time we played them, last few years at Butler, those are probably more of the games. While the personnel's different, those are more of the games that probably we reflect on and have watched a little bit more than that. That Ohio State game, it wasn't their night. It was kind of our night. We played well, but it was early in the season too.
Adam Jardy, the Columbus Dispatch. Chris, your commitment to details yesterday from your team seemed maybe as on point as it's been all season. And I know being committed to the game plan doesn't guarantee a win or a loss, but
Yeah.
How replicable do you think that is with this team, that you can be as dialed in as you were yesterday tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it's a necessity, Adam, against these guys. I think it's a real necessity. I don't think you can beat them without a really high attention to detail. And you're right. We played as hard as maybe as I've ever seen us play. And we were as detailed in a lot of areas as we've been for sure. And this game is going to be required that. And it was, evident in how we played.
Will?
Chris, Will Graves with the Associated Press. How would you describe EJ's evolution as a player? It seems like he's, from the outside anyway, he's methodically put together literally every piece that he needs over these 3 years to be a good pro at the next level. And do you worry sometimes that his consistency is maybe taken for granted just because you don't have to worry about it looks like?
Yeah, maybe. It's not taken for granted by us. I lose sleep over it. He's going to be leaving here in a little bit. So we don't take it for granted. It's so his consistency really is remarkable. You can pretty much count on what he's going to be night in and night out. And, I just think he's a great example of a kid who's a great kid and has literally gotten better in front of our eyes every year. And he had a real choice. I think, he clearly made the right choice in coming back. But sometimes kids come back and they don't see great improvement in their game for whatever reason. They just don't. We could talk about a number of guys. He's really improved. And for me, it's a great reward because I know it's going to benefit him in terms of his professional career and his professional opportunities in the NBA. And that's exciting to see that happen for a kid.
Chris, you talked yesterday after just reflecting on the win and how last season ended that you kind of have to have tunnel vision as you progress through the tournament. And Gene was talking about how the team has to have fun after winning the game, but now they got to lock in. For you personally as a coach, now that you have won the first game and you play tomorrow, how do you as a coach kind of just turn the focus and shift and move on quickly from getting that win and going into tomorrow?
Yeah, pretty quickly, right away. Really right away. I think that's you try to. Again, we've done this now 7 years. You try to turn the page right away and immediately prepare for what's next. And it's such a quick turnaround, so your prep has to start literally right after the game gets over with, and that's what we tried to do.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com. Chris, obviously size in your guys' backcourt isn't necessarily your strong suit.
Yeah.
Villanova, that's not necessarily the case, especially with Moore. He's 6'4", 210. I asked Jamari this, I'll ask you as well. What are some of the challenges when you are a smaller guard going up against a bigger guy who likes to throw his weight around a little bit?
That, and Gillespie's a power guard too, really physical. I think that is a concern. We're small and we're also slight at some of those spots. And Malachi's not short, but he's slight. He's 18 years old. So it's very much a concern, Stephen. It just really is because they post their guards. They post their 5-man, but they post their guards. Their best post players, along with their 5-man, are their 1 and their 2. So it's a concern.
Craig Meyer from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris, what were some of the traits and qualities that you saw in Greg Oden, having gotten to have known him in the years before this, that made you think that he would be a valuable addition to the staff and with this program?
Greg really wants to coach. I think that's as much. He helped us, initially when we first got here a couple years ago, and then he kind of stepped away and did some other things. Then said, "Hey, Coach, I'll go be an assistant at a mid-major. I just want to coach. I want to get my foot in the door." And I think that initiative that he took and that hunger was obvious. He can obviously bring a lot of things in terms of just his knowledge and his experience. But he wants to coach. He wants to build a career in coaching. And we kind of felt like an obligation this year. And he needs to we need to help him find something this offseason to where he can go get some recruiting experience. And that's what we're going to try to do.
Bill Landis from The Athletic. Chris, you're playing two programs here, like the team you beat yesterday, Loyola and Villanova, that think most people who follow college basketball they know what those programs are about, what you're going to get when you play those teams, and I'm sure that's something as a coach you take a lot of pride in. I'm just wondering where you think maybe you are in establishing that for your own program now that you're 5 years into this.
Yeah, I think 5 years into this, 4 postseasons, right? We always think about that lost years. We forget about that. I think as much as anything, Bill, it'd be interesting to ask other teams, kind of what would they think of when they think of our team. But I would hope that they would say, what we've tried to build is a really tough and tough-minded team that is connected on both ends and plays together on both ends. And I think, teams that can consistently be that are going to be able to consistently win at a pretty high level. So hopefully that's what would be said. That's what we've tried to build. There's a lot of different ways to build it, but that's what we would hope would be said about us. I think we've had, we've certainly had. I think those would be consistent characteristics that people would say about our teams.
Mike Jensen, Philadelphia Inquirer. Chris, you said you've stolen a lot from Jay. Can you give us something, just something from the X&O point of view?
I got an assistant who is all about 2-foot plays and jump stop and 2-point percentage, and really a lot of that is from Jay. The fundamentals of footwork, the fundamentals of playing on balance, on drives and on the interior. The idea of an offensive rebound being an immediate kick out for a 3 is something that I think a lot of teams have stolen. Jay, we know this because I think they left it behind a time or two. Jay, in every road, and you guys know this that follow him, in any road locker room has attitude written up at the top. We don't do that, but we've stolen some similar ideas. Those are a couple examples.
Jerry.
Thank you. Jerry DePaula, Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. Coach, with players having such an easy route to transferring these days, has it changed the way you coach kids, handle certain situations with kids?
It can change. I think maybe it changes what the conversation in recruiting a little bit. Maybe you're trying to be a little bit more, I don't want to say honest, but maybe a little bit more plain spoken about what the first year or two could be like with young men. I don't think it can change entirely how you coach. I've been asked this a lot because I think you got to, for me, I have to coach to my convictions and what I believe impacts teams and players the best way. And if I can't do that, then I just as soon not coach. I do think there's more dialogue now with parents and with people who are connected to your players because of the transfer portal. You used to go a whole season and not talk. And at the end of the season, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. You can't do that anymore. You kind of have to stay in contact with your players, immediate circle.
Mike Sealski from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Chris, Jay has spoken for a while since the Big East kind of reconstituted in 13 and 14, that it's really to his advantage and to the advantage of the league that it's considered a basketball-first league. Mm-hmm. You've seen that, obviously, and now you've seen coaching in the Big Ten. What do you think of his take on that, and how do you compare the Big East now compared to the Big Ten in that regard?
Well, they've really sold it as a basketball-first league, and I think it's played to their benefit. Obviously, the addition of UConn has helped. It's a tremendous basketball league, and I get why you would sell something. They've got really strong brands, basketball brands, that have had great success and won national championships and been to Final Fours. A lot of similar sized institutions. I had a tremendous experience in that league. Tremendous experience. I loved it. And part of it was just the purity of how important basketball was in that league. I love the Big Ten as well, They're just different in how they're set up.
Chris, you guys, or Spencer Holbrook from Letterman Row. Chris, you guys obviously finally get a tournament game under your belt with some of these guys that haven't played in one before. Do you feel like that takes a little bit of the nerves away from what they're going to go through trying to get to a Sweet 16 now?
Probably, but I think being on edge is not a bad thing. So I think it probably takes maybe relaxes some guys, but and maybe we need that to help us, shoot the ball a little bit better. But I think, there's a place for being on edge and having some nerves in a tournament like this.
Chris, wanted to follow you talking about the team's connectedness earlier. What do you maybe attribute some of that to? Is it like hourglass end of the season coming up? Is it that you had a week to prepare? Why do you think you guys were able to be as dialed in as they were like that?
Probably all of those things, Adam. And again, when we've been healthy, we have been pretty connected. And I'm not saying if Kyle's with us every game we win the league, but I think we probably could finish a game out maybe. So I think there is a precedent that this has been a pretty connected group. And I just think anytime you're sensing that the end is coming and you have some older guys that know the end is coming, there's an urgency to how they're going to play.
Steve Hellwagon, 24/7 Sports.
Where are you at, Steve?
Way in the back.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
Question, your offense yesterday, EJ took 2 shots, I think, in the first half, and it was kind of, I don't know, they made you play left-handed a little bit. Here's Villanova. I think they're in the top 25 in adjusted defense as well.
Yeah.
Just what can you guys do to tweak things? Were you happy with the shots that you got and the people who were taking them? Just in a general sense, what were your thoughts about that and what you have to do?
I thought we settled a few too many times, and I thought our shot selection on a few occasions could have been better, Steve. I thought we could have tacked a little bit better than what we did. Now, they were very, very disruptive to us, and you're right, they did. They trapped some of our guys, and they also threw multiple guys at EJ. But I still think we settled a couple times that, and I didn't love a couple of our shots. So we need to get better with that. But Villanova can do a lot of the same thing. They're going to bump you off cuts. They're going to be really, really physical on the interior. And if you can't play with force, you can't be effective against these guys. It just won't happen. It just won't happen. They're too physical. They're too old and too strong. So hope that answers that.
Last question for Coach Will.
Chris, you talked about how the transfer portal has maybe changed the landscape a little bit. I mean, last year, tough out, EJ gets a lot of stuff online. Guys transfer for a billion reasons. Your players are up here saying they never worried about it. What does it say to you about maybe him that he kind of not only just sort of absorbed that stuff, but turned it into maybe almost like a positive sort of doubling down maybe on sort of how he felt about Columbus?
They said they never worried about him transferring after that. Yeah, and we did our due diligence on that, and I think, figured out it was, we communicated with his family. I think it was somebody who was betting on the game from somewhere outside of Columbus. I mean, I guess was what we understand. So, I think, with EJ, who he's been who he was in the recruiting process, who his family was in the recruiting process, has been consistent with who he's been in 3 years. I think anytime, you're coaching a kid and you see him maybe go through difficult things, you kind of know in some ways how they could respond. And you kind of know sometimes, hey, guys, could transfer for this reason or that reason, just because it's you just get that sense. With EJ, we knew how he felt about his opportunity to come back. I don't think he wanted to leave on that note. And I also think he knew how we felt about him and how he felt about this place. And to his credit, he's left a great legacy. He's been honest on social media, and a lot of his takes on social media on just, I give him credit. He's been really vulnerable and honest, and he was in that moment, and, it's a credit to him.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Okay.